All right, we're just going to do a quick aircraft systems overview for the Piper Seminole here. Starting up in the baggage compartment. When you go in the baggage compartment and you remove the inspection panel and look rearwards, the first thing that you're going to see down here on the bottom are your two nose down springs. These nose down springs are connected to your elevator cables, and that's what we always talk about when we're mentioning a deep stall in a T-tail aircraft. We make sure that these nose down springs are here to help prevent against that. Also looking in the back, we can see our 80 AHRS unit. So that's what controls our attitude and heading reference stuff on the G1000. As well as if you look up in that top corner there, you can see your blower fan that's connected to your fresh air inlet outside, and that controls the cooling side of our environmental system. Coming around to the side of the aircraft here, we can take a look at the engine. This one's torn up pretty good, but we can still take a look at it. First thing I want to show you would be our magneto system. So the magneto system, here's your right mag for this engine, and if you look really carefully back in the corner, you can see the left mag over there. But we'll take a look at the right mag here first. On this magneto, you can see we have 4 wires sticking out on the back of it, and each wire goes to 1 spark plug per cylinder. So this magneto, the top spark plugs are removed on this engine, but if we follow these wires all the way back, these orange wires here, you can see that those are going to go to the spark plugs. Once again, we have 1 per cylinder here. Now on the front side of the engine, we always talk about our belt-driven alternators. That's what you can see right here. So this guy would be our alternator, and the belt is driven directly by the engine here, which is what gives us that power. Moving on to the front of the engine here, we can take a look at our propeller system. So as you can see, up front here, this guy right here would be our propeller governor. Our propeller governor, we have the speeder spring right on top, and that's what controls our blue knob, is a tension on that spring adjusted right by here, okay? Now there's multiple forces that affect the pitch of these blade angles. For starters, we know that oil pressure and aerodynamic twisting are going to bring these to a low pitch, high RPM. But what about a high pitch, low RPM? Well, that's going to be our counterweights. So we have a counterweight here and a counterweight on the other side, as well as our nitrogen, which is filled right by here, and our big hub spring, which is going to be inside of your propeller hub here. Taking a closer look at the propeller governor, we see this oil line on front. If we follow that all the way to the back of the engine, come through the baffling and all the way back, and you can see it's hooked up to this guy right here. Now this would be your unfeathering accumulator. Because the Seminole is a trainer aircraft and we feather these props a lot, we have an unfeathering accumulator built into the engine. Essentially what this is you can see we have another nitrogen fill port, so that should look pretty familiar from the front of the engine. And when we feather the propeller, we have oil that's stored under pressure by nitrogen. So when we go to unfeather our propeller, it comes out through that line all the way to the front to the propeller hub. It's going to send oil into the prop hub and unfeather our propeller. Another cool thing to show you while on the front of the aircraft would be your starter. So this is what a starter looks like, and that gear, when we press the starter button, that'll just pop on out and start cranking your engine. The last thing I want to show you on the engine would be your fuel pumps. So you have 2 fuel pumps, one engine driven and one electric. This one right here is going to be your electric fuel pump. So that's what we refer to as the boost pump. And then this one's going to be hard to see, but right on in there, right on the bottom of the engine, that would be your engine driven fuel pump. Next, we're going to head up and underneath the aircraft. Pardon me as I climb underneath here. First thing to show you is going to be the squat switch. In this case, you can see right here, this is our squat switch for the right wheel. Now, as you can see, this aircraft, the squat switch is currently closed, which indicates that there is not weight on the wheels. The reason for that is this plane is up on jacks. So, there quite literally is no weight on the wheel, which is causing the squat switch to indicate closed, no weight on wheels. Next thing to show you would be the gear down limit switch, which is this one right here. As you can see, that gear down limit switch is closed, which would indicate the green indication for the right main gear, as well as turn off the hydraulic pump for gear extension. Moving to the front of the aircraft, I just want to show you what's up under the nose. For starters, we'll go with our heater system. So this right here, this big unit, would be our heater. And I always teach that we have 2 air intakes for the heater. We have 1 air intake up front and 1 up here. Now the difference between these 2 is one of them is our fresh air intake, and that would be this one, and our other is the combustion intake, and that would be this one up here. So the difference between those 2 is in order for combustion to occur, and that's what this is a combustion heater, we need air, fuel, and spark. Well, the air that gets mixed with fuel and burnt to get warm is this air. The air that goes through the warm heater, and it's going to come all the way through and into the cabin to get us warm, that's going to be this air right here. That's our fresh air. Coming around the front of the aircraft now, just to finish a couple things up, we can take a look at our nose gear assembly, which this aircraft, the nose gear isn't fully intact right now, but we can take a look at our switches. So right here, this would be our down limit switch for the nose gear. Same thing I showed you on the main, but this would be our switch for the nose gear. So if that was fully intact and this gear was down, this switch would be closed. Our up position indicator would be this switch right here. So when the gear does swing up and compresses this switch, that would indicate that our nose gear is up. And now onto the left side of the aircraft. The left side of the aircraft is essentially the same exact thing as the right, so I'm not going to highlight anything specific here. The one thing to note is just with counter-rotating propellers, on this specific aircraft, this engine here, the left engine, would be an IO 360, spinning it normally, so this one would be spinning to the right from the cockpit's perspective. And then that engine over there, the right engine, that would be an LIO 360 spinning to the left from the cockpit's perspective. And that is the Seminole Systems overview.